It's a really, really interesting position right now, I think, in the Red Bull camp, just because you kind of feel like Checo might be on ice with where he's at on Red Bull right now. And I think it's a very safe move for AlphaTauri, but it feels like a repetition of just so many drivers that we've seen where you have a reigning F2 champ sitting 1-2 years like Oscar Piastri waiting to get into F1. And it's just, these guys aren't going to get any younger, right? It's a difficult choice, but I almost think that this is almost banking on something happening to Checo and either Danny or Yuki making that move up to Red Bull. That's totally tinfoil helmet on for me, but crazier things have happened in silly season for Formula One, guys.
Yeah, I agree with Jackson here, but I think that with Lawson's performance today, he was trying to make a point to AlphaTauri, but then also in one of the post-race interviews, he didn't seem to be gloating or to seem too excited about the fact that he had just outperformed Yuki Tsunoda, which might be because he's trying not to make it seem like a big deal, because we clearly saw that Yuki Tsunoda was upset afterwards. But I think that Liam Lawson's definitely going to be in the mix, and Red Bull's definitely going to be taking a look at him, especially with Sergio Perez and the performances he's shown us in the last 2 races. If he keeps this up, then I think he's definitely going to be out of a contract next season, and Liam Lawson might be the driver that they're looking towards, or someone else.
The big one for me was Logan Sargeant just locks up into the hairpin, loses it on his own, and collects Bottas, ends his race with him. And I think I was saying it last night, guys. He's a dude that needed one more year in Formula 2 at least, and just was a marketing move to get him in that seat, and just wasn't ready.
I just want to say this about Logan Sargeant. I always try to remain as objective as possible on these shows, but the reality is people understand where I've been the last several years on the importance of, during this boom that Formula One's experiencing here in the States, the importance of having an American driver on the grid. So I was excited to see Logan Sargeant get that promotion this year. Jackson, I'm with you. I think in a perfect world, probably would have spent another year in Formula 2, but he had the super license points. He had the opportunity. I think the only argument that he has is, look, you gave me this seat with the idea that year one was going to be the year to learn the car, to learn Formula 1. Let's see what you can do in year 2. That's where you're going to be judged a little bit more harshly here. To not get that year 2, I think would be a little bit of a disappointment. But at the same time, it's impossible to ignore what Liam Lawson is doing in this AlphaTauri right now, filling in. It would be kind of ironic if he took the Williams seat, because then I think Williams just becomes the third Red Bull team with Alex Albon being there as well.
Do not even mention that, dear God.
I mean, yeah, that's where I am right now. If we're going to look at this objectively, obviously, if I'm going to allow myself to pull for one driver, it's going to be the American driver on the grid, whether it's Logan Sargeant or Colton Herta, whoever it is, just for the sake of what it means for the sport here in this country. But when you look at it objectively, it is very, very difficult to make the case for Logan Sargeant having that seat over a guy like Liam Lawson or a guy like Mick Schumacher, who's still waiting for another opportunity. I know he's probably going to be doing some WEC races next year. I already mentioned Felipe Drugovich, the reigning F2 champion, who is stuck in a reserve role this year. So, it's when he has weekends like this, when he has performances like this, it gets very difficult to justify giving him a second season in that car. But that was kind of the original intention when he first signed this deal. So I understand both sides of it, but I would say at this point in their careers, Liam Lawson should be in that AlphaTauri seat. I hope Daniel Ricciardo can come back before the end of the year and put in some strong performances, and we'll see what he can do next year. But it's going to be a crime if he's not on the grid in 2024. I'll tell you that much.
Ben, I'll say this: the season Sargeant's having right now is coming down to 2 really, really big factors, results-wise and opinion-wise. One, Williams is still struggling to be on that level of competitiveness that they've had decades ago. But I think the big issue is we're witnessing one of the most talented rookie classes in Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson that I think we've seen in years, and as well as some fantastic drives from Alex Albon, who's just been kind of used to getting the most out of, we'll say, not front running cars after his time with with Toro Rosso. But it's just a lot of different factors. And as much as I think he came in too early, I absolutely agree with you, Ben. And I think he does genuinely deserve at least half of the next year. Let halfway of next year be the deciding point for his career.
Yeah, well, that would be Scott Speed, right? Got a full year in 06 and then half the season in 07 before. I mean, the Red Bull program really is boom or bust. You know, it's
It
boom
is,
if you're
man.
Sebastian Vettel, it's bust if you're Sebastian Bourdais or Scott Speed for that matter. But the last full-time American in Formula One, it'd be interesting to see if they give Sargeant another half year, and then maybe that's his legacy as well. You know, but it's been still hard to believe. It's been 30 years since an American scored a point in Formula One. I would at least hope that Sargeant can experience that before his time at Williams is up, whenever that may be, because Scott Speed would have scored points if we had the current system. His best finish was 9th in that Toro Rosso. Sargent's best is 11th, so both of them so close. But you know, that's the situation right now.
Still, what, 5-6 races to go? Can happen.
6, right? Yeah,
I think so.
Quick follow-up question for you guys on Logan Sargeant. Do you guys think he kind of got pushed up because the Andretti deal didn't end up happening?
Ooh. I got an answer here.
Curious.
Go ahead, Jackson. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think for sure that might have been a little bit of an influence, but I think it's just overall a surge of a desire for American competitors in Formula One. I don't think it was necessarily apples to apples, and I think
makes sense.
This is at least what I'm thinking, but if I'm Michael Andretti and I'm trying to get into Formula One, I'm picking the 2 best guys from IndyCar right now, and I'm signing them a massive contract to go and try Formula One. But I really do think it's more of bringing IndyCar talent over Andretti's mission than necessarily bringing American talent. But that's just me.
I don't love doing shameless plugs all the time, but I've written a couple of op-eds for Brock Beard, Last Card on Info, on the subject of American drivers in Formula One and does the sport actually want them and all that stuff. One of the points I made in one of my recent pieces, I think it was in January, was that I think, ironically, when you look at how the seats all played out, Colton Herta not getting that super license exemption is really what opened up that Williams seat for Logan Sargeant.
For Logan Sargeant, yeah.
That seat instead went to Nick DeVries, who had that great run at Monza in that Williams last year, where he did score a couple of points. And then with DeVries not taking the Williams seat occupied by Latifi, who was the next obvious promotion deal in that seat, was Logan Sargeant. So I think had Colton Herta been given that exemption, I don't know that Logan Sargeant would have made it on the grid this on the grid this year, and he probably gets another year in F2, like you were mentioning, Jackson. And ultimately, for the long-term development of Logan Sargeant, I think that would have been better. But we are where we are now.